Hi guys, this is Lalana. Thanks for tuning into the Sovereign Path. So today we're going to talk about limerence and the twin flame. I've had several of you ask me about this in the comments, and I know this has been like an ongoing sort of question in the twin flame community for a long time now. So let's hit on it. Let's hit on it again just so we can have some better clarification. So limerence is just, this is just my basic nutshell, quick overview. So you guys can do your own research on that as well, obviously. But limerence is going to be a situation where someone finds themselves addicted to another person, right? Addicted to being around this person to the point that they could have obsessive compulsive behaviors, detrimental behavior, things of that nature. The thing about when we're in limerence is that this basically can lead you into a downward spiral. The limerence situation is not reciprocal. It usually doesn't really have a lot to do with the other person. It just has to do with having some sort of compulsive behavior, addictive behaviors toward that other person. So yeah, it's a very kind of, and I'm not knocking anybody that has had limerence issues or anything like that, but it doesn't lead to your growth, right? It doesn't lead to growth. It actually leads to having kind of this cyclical patterned behavior. This is generally karmic on some level, whether you're running a karmic pattern within your own world still, and that program is still just kind of going round and round. Because a lot of times when we find that we're experiencing limerence, potentially we have experienced this with other people in the past as well. So this is our own patterning that is coming up to the surface that needs to be dealt with and cleared, rather than actually having anything to do with another specific person. And since it holds this sort of this unhealthy patterning of some sort of program that we're running within ourselves, until that pattern is broken, the same with a karmic situation, which this is a karmic situation as well, just a different label for it, we can find ourselves running into that patterning in other situations with other, potential, people that we find a romantic attraction to in our life. And so due to that, yes, it can lead us down, it's not going to elevate you, is a good way to say this. When you're experiencing a limerence situation, you're not going to be elevated into your higher self. This isn't going to be promoting growth. It's not going to be promoting expansion. It will be showing you where potentially you continue to hit a wall over and over again, because that's what karmic situations do. But it's up for you to break whatever is going on within that programming that has that addictive, compulsive, behavior continuing. Once you break that, then yeah, there can be some growth and expansion. But the growth and expansion is not going to be coming from that dynamic. That dynamic is going to be showing you where something is out of alignment that needs to be seen, healed, cleared, and all of those sort of things. So the twin flame dynamic is spiritual in nature. This is your spiritual awakening. This is your ascension path. It is orchestrated by the soul. You are activated to go through an awakening by the soul. And the twin flame dynamic, although in the beginning stages can feel, obsessive in that way, or can feel addictive in that way, this is not a long-term situation that is just continuing and continuing and continuing, and you're never sort of coming out of it. And it also isn't a situation where you feel like you just keep getting worse and worse and worse. In a limerence situation, a lot of times, as I said, it can just feel like a downward spiral. Nothing is ever getting better. It's just a cyclical loop. Twin flame dynamic is here to shift you into a higher vibration. It's here to shift you into a better life. It's here to bring you into self-love. It's here to bring you into self-worth. It's here to bring you into self-value. So these alone are two very marked differences between the the twin flame dynamic and a limerence situation. The twin flame dynamic is here to allow you to grow, to expand, to come into the best version of yourself. And as I said, it is a spiritual awakening. The higher, grander purpose of this is to go through your ascension process. So these two, although in the very, you know, potentially that kind of obsessive stage that some people can experience on the twin flame dynamic, not everyone experiences this on the twin flame dynamic. So I should also say that. A lot of people do, but it's not necessarily always that you feel addicted to someone when you're on a twin flame dynamic. It feels like the thoughts are addictive, right? The thoughts, you have a very difficult time shutting off the thoughts. But a twin flame dynamic is generally not something that you feel like you're actually addicted to someone else. There are addictive thoughts, right? And those thoughts can feel obsessive. So this is also, you know, another difference between the limerence situation and a twin flame dynamic. So in the twin flame dynamic, as we're going through this, and I know you guys probably know because I've been talking about this a lot in my videos and other content and things that you watch, is that, you know, this stuff is coming up for you and the twin is reflecting things back for you in order for you to release them, not for you to play them over and over and over and over in the mind, which is what the ego likes to do. And so this is what's actually going on. It's the ego is just being like, trying to control this thing and just spinning out of control, right? And just playing over, you know, playing these scenarios and all of these things. What if this and what if that, and why is this and why is that, and all of these sort of things. And so the mind starts running riot. The mind starts running, you know, in loops, because at that point we haven't recognized that the reason that we are being triggered so much is because it's time to let these aspects of the self, the wounding, the karmas, the traumas, the identifications, you know, the labels, the definitions, that it's time to let them go. That's what the ascension process is. The ascension process is about releasing what is no longer serving you, and that can feel damn painful to the ego. You know, it can feel very, very painful to the ego. And so that process in and of itself, in that beginning stage, I guess for some people can feel a bit like limerence, but it's very, very different than limerence. So just be discerning, as I've said in a lot of my videos, on what you're actually experiencing, because the spiritual awakening is what's happening here, right? That's the whole purpose of this entire path, is to go through that spiritual awakening. The video that I released before this also goes into, you know, because I've heard a lot and I've had a lot of questions asked, you know, my karmic awakened me, or my soulmate awakened me, and all of these sort of things. Your soul awakened you, and that's it. There's no other external person that's awakening anyone in this experience. It's just the soul that is awakening you. And we see the twin as being someone separate from us when we're initially stepping onto this path. And so we think that the twin flame has, you know, awakened us. And so now it's just like this amazing thing. This person awakened me, and oh my gosh, and all these sort of things. But it's the soul that is your twin flame. The twin flame is your soul. The twin flame is your same consciousness. So it's the soul that has awakened you to go through this process on the path. So that's a huge difference between the twin flame and any sort of limerence situation that you may be experiencing. There are a lot of very marked differences. As you go through the ascension process, you are going to become lighter and lighter. This is actually shifting you into a higher timeline. It's shifting you into a better life. The whole point of ascension is to shift you into a higher vibratory state, right? It's just that in those beginning and initial stages, it feels so damn painful because we're releasing things that we have been holding on to for lifetimes, and it feels completely foreign. And the separation consciousness experience that we've been having in the 3D feels very damn natural to us. And it has to feel natural to us as souls, because if it didn't feel natural to us as souls, then we couldn't have that experience, right? And so just having the awareness, again, this is an experience that I had as a soul. And that's great. And it's an amazing thing. And my soul has expanded from this and grown from this. And now my soul is choosing to grow and expand through unity consciousness in the material world, right? This is what the 5D is. I have questions about that a lot. The 5D is just a higher vibratory state of oneness, but you're still experiencing the material world. You're not going off planet when I say that you're shifting into the 5D. You're still here on Earth. It's just that your vibration is no longer vibrating at a third dimensional frequency of separation, just so we're aware. So this is still the material world that we're experiencing when you shift it into the 5D. And so that is another like marketed difference between Limerence and the Twin Flame. The Twin Flame, you're going to be shifting into inner union. You're going to be shifting into neutrality. As this thing goes forward, you're going to start feeling better. The obsessive thoughts are going to stop, right? The pain of the ego death, the dark night of the soul are going to end, right? There's a light at the end of the tunnel here that you are being led to by your soul. So just like these things alone are just like massive like awarenesses of the difference between Limerence and the Twin Flame. And I see this stuff all the time. And as I said, I've had a lot of questions about it. And even some people in the comments now and then are just like, tell me this is just Limerence so I can kind of get off this path, you know, sort of thing. Is because when you're having a Twin Flame experience, you know it. Like it triggered your awakening. Like you can't duck and weave the awakening. You know, your whole reality starts to move around and shift. And so, you know, we're not, you know, when we're in that place, we're like, am I experiencing awakening? I don't really know. You're gonna know. Like the awakening knocks your feet right out from under you. It's nothing that you can compare to any other experiences that we've had in the 3D physical reality. So you will absolutely know. Things will start shifting very, very quickly in your world. Energetically, your awarenesses, you know, reality starts to look very, very different when you step onto an awakening path. Energies start to feel very, very different. All sorts of things start to come online that are hard to explain, but they are experiential. If you're on a true Twin Flame dynamic, you will be experiencing these things. And they're not going to be easy to miss. They're going to be straight up frontal in your face because the higher self is going to make sure that you're not going to miss that your spiritual awakening has begun, right? And so none of that's going to be happening in any sort of limerent situation. None of that awakening stuff happens. You're not shifting into a higher timeline. Your vibration isn't rising. You're not going through ego death. You know, none of that stuff. You're not coming into neutrality. You're not coming into inner union. You know, so there are just like these massive, massive differences in between, you know, the Limerence state and the Twin Flame dynamic, you know. So just a quick hit on that, just for several of you who have asked. If you're on a Twin Flame dynamic, you know, that's it. Your ascension has begun and you can't get off. That's the other thing. You know, you can get over somebody that you have Limerence for. You know, you can get over that, you can move on and whatever else. The Twin Flame dynamic, it just doesn't work like that. It's not something that you're going to be able to outrun. Your ascension has begun. And yeah, it's kind of like welcome to the party. It's kind of like you got to get on board with the awakening because that's what this is, if this is what you're experiencing. So that's what I have for you guys. I hope you have an awesome day.